One of the most robust features within Canvas includes the various ways in which you can assess student learning. This video is going to review how to give quizzes and/or exams in Canvas. To start, I'm going to navigate to our quiz feature, which is found under Assessments in the left-hand navigation menu. I click on Assessments and you'll find that everything pretty much defaults to the term quiz. However, that doesn't mean that you can't be giving an exam or a practice quiz in this quiz feature. Rather, it's just how you will end up labeling anything that you create in this space. So I'm going to go ahead and add a quiz. And for our purposes here, I'm just going to call this test quiz. And I'm going to point out a few features before we get started. Number one, you can start by adding quiz instructions, and here is that what you see is what you get editor once again. That means that you could add a video, you could add a recording, you could add a picture. On the far right, you could add links, files, and images, all within the space of the quiz instructions. Next, you can decide what type of quiz you'd like to give. For our purposes of this video, we're going to create a graded quiz. However, you can create a practice quiz, which would be ungraded, and in fact, the instructor wouldn't even see the results of the student's work on a practice quiz. You can do a survey. You could choose to grade that survey, or you can have an ungraded survey. And you will experience the ungraded survey feature at the end of this training, where I will ask you to complete a survey about your work in the training. You can choose what assignment group to put this quiz in. I have no assignment groups built, so I'm just going to leave it in assignments. I can shuffle answers to questions. Please note that if you choose to shuffle answers and you usually use questions such as all of the above or none of the above, the answer could get shuffled. There's no way to shuffle a singular question's answers. So if you have questions like that, you would not want to pick this option. You can set a time limit for the course, for the quiz. And I will show you after building the quiz how you can go about extending that time limit. You can allow students multiple attempts, and if you do that, you can choose which attempt you're going to keep, the highest, latest, or an average of the attempts, and you can choose to limit the number of attempts that the students are allowed to have. Similarly, you have some additional options here where you can let the students see their responses. You can limit how many times. You can also let students see their correct answers, and you can choose when to show those correct answers. So for example, if you want them to see them 2 weeks after they take the quiz, or if you only want them to be able to see them for a limited period of time, you can lock that down. The quiz will default to show all of the questions in a list, but you can choose to show one question at a time instead. Quiz restrictions allow you to require an access code that you can type in or a password for the quiz, and you can also filter IP addresses. So if you wanted the students to all take a quiz in a specific lab on campus, we could get you that IP address and the students would only be able to take the quiz in that particular lab. You can assign due dates to everyone in the class. If you have sections, you can choose to have different due dates for different sections, and you can make the quiz available to and from a specific date. So when we're happy with our instructions, and let me just type instructions here, we can move on to building the questions for our quiz. So here we have a few options. I can build a new question, I can build a new question group, or I can find questions. Find questions is specifically for if you've built a question bank, and I will show you that at the end of the video. But for our purposes right now, we're going to click on Add a New Question. Once again, we have that very robust editor, which means that for a particular question, you could add an image, you could add a drawing, you could add a film strip, a narrative, you could add a video that they have to watch before they answer the question. So it's really important that you know you have all those features available to you, and you can do some pretty cool things with your quizzes. Up at the top, I want to point out to you that you have a number of types of questions that are available. Most of these are fairly standard. And we're going to just create a short answer, really essay question for this quiz. I can change the point value for the questions. And here's my question. How old is this son? I can choose to give feedback, so general feedback on this answer. And when I'm finished with my feedback, I can click done, scroll down, and I can save. And now I've saved my question, and I've saved all of the changes I've made to the quiz so far. When I'm ready, I can click edit to add additional questions. And again, I can click on new question. This time I can choose to add a true false question. Is the sky blue? I'm going to say yes, it is. And for my incorrect response, I can also add feedback. Look again. And again, I'm going to mark that as done and update my question. And so there's my question, and I can show my question details, and I can save that again. And now I have built my quiz. And when I'm ready for my quiz to be available, I can publish my quiz. So first, I want to show you how you would moderate this quiz, and that is for when you have students who need extra time or attempts depending on their maybe accommodations that are required. So for a student who would get 50% more time on an exam, I can click on 5 more minutes, and I can give a 5-minute extension to that student on every exam. Unfortunately, you cannot set these exceptions for students across the board. You have to go in for each quiz or exam and add their time, but at least you can do that student by student. Similarly, if I needed to, I could give an extra attempt to a student. So say a student missed a quiz, but I've agreed to give them an extra try, I can add that attempt, and the quiz will be temporarily unlocked for that student to take that quiz. And last thing I want to show you about the quiz and assessment feature is over here with the gear where we can manage our question banks. So question banks are important because they are where you're going to add questions that maybe came from a textbook or something like that. So I've added my question bank, and here I can add questions to this bank. So I can add questions here, I can type them in. If you have some files from your textbook editors, or textbook publishers I should say, we can add those files in a different location. We can upload those and pop them into your question banks. You can edit the details of your question bank, and I'm going to cancel out of this to show you that. Cancel. So I can edit my bank details. I can move multiple questions in or out of a bank, and if I have a bank, available and I pull from a bank into a specific quiz, that will allow me to randomize questions. So say I have 50 questions in my bank and I want to only pull 25, I'd be able to do that. Another cool feature about banks is that if you brought in multiple questions in a bank and you say made them 2 points each, there's a way within the banks where you can reset questions so that all of the points will change for all of the questions in that bank. So a few cool features that are worth exploring if you're thinking about giving any kind of quiz or assessments in Canvas.